Right now, while you're watching this video, light is traveling through thin glass strands, thousands of miles long, under oceans, across continents, carrying this exact video to your screen. That technology has a father, and I'd bet money you've never heard his name. He was an Indian schoolboy who got into an argument with his teacher over one simple sentence. Light only travels in straight lines. He said, "Prove it." And 40 years later, the entire internet was built on the fact that he was right and his teacher was wrong. This is the story of Narinder Singh Kapany, the man who bent light. So here's a question. How do you become the father of an invention that changed the world? Does it start in a lab, a university, a $1 million grant? For Kapany, it started in a classroom in Dehradun, India, sometime in the 1930s. His teacher, a man named Mr. Zakharich, told the class a basic rule of physics. Light travels in straight lines. Period. End of discussion. Young Kapany didn't buy it. Something in him just refused to accept it. And it wasn't his only obsession. His father had gifted him a Kodak camera. And instead of taking pictures with it, Kapany took it apart completely, just to understand how light moved inside it. That curiosity, that refusal to accept that's just how it is, followed him for the rest of his life. And it eventually led him 8,000 kilometers away to a lab in London, where he'd attempt to do something nobody had pulled off before. By 1952, Kapany was at Imperial College London, working under a physicist named Harold Hopkins. And Hopkins had a problem. Scientists already knew, in theory, that light could bounce inside a glass tube without escaping, a principle called total internal reflection. Simple version. If light hits the edge of the glass at the right angle, instead of leaking out, it just bounces back in, over and over, like a ball ricocheting down a hallway forever. Sounds great on paper, but every time someone tried it for real, the light died. It leaked out, got absorbed, or scattered into nothing within centimeters. So here's the question that mattered. Could you actually get usable light through a long, bendable fiber? Not just theory, but something you could hold in your hand? Kapany decided to find out. He ordered high-purity glass fibers built specifically for this experiment. What he got back instead was something almost funny. The glass company didn't really understand what he needed. So instead of pure optical glass, they sent him spools of cheap green glass fiber, drawn from melted-down beer bottles. Imagine that. One of the most important scientific breakthroughs of the 20th century nearly got derailed by recycled beer glass. It was so impure that light barely survived a few centimeters before it died out completely. Kapany had to cut the fibers down to just 75 centimeters and blast them with one of the brightest lights available, a carbon arc lamp, just to get any result at all. And even then, there was a second problem nobody had solved. When you bundled multiple fibers together, the light from one would leak into the next, turning any image into a meaningless blur. So the question becomes, how do you stop light from leaking between fibers packed next to each other? The answer came from a separate scientist, Bram van Heel, who had the idea to coat each glass fiber in a clear layer with a different optical property, a cladding. Think of it like wrapping each individual wire in invisible insulation. The light stayed locked inside its own fiber with zero crosstalk. Kapany combined this with another idea, bundling thousands of these clad fibers together so precisely that each one's position at the start matched its position at the end. And then came the moment of proof. In a darkened lab, Kapany placed a small mask in front of a light source. The mask had one word cut into it: fiber. He projected it through his bundle of bent glass fibers across the room onto a screen. The word appeared, sharp, clear, through curved glass. His teacher was wrong. Light could bend. That demonstration was published in the journal Nature in January 1954, the official birth certificate of fiber optics. Here's a twist most people don't know. The very next big use of this discovery wasn't telecommunications. It was medicine. A doctor named Basil Hershowitz read Kapany's paper and realized if you could send an image through a bendable fiber, you could look inside the human body without surgery. In 1957, he tested the very first version of a flexible medical scope on himself. By 1960, doctors everywhere had a tool to examine the stomach and esophagus without ever cutting the patient open. Kapany's bent light had just saved thousands of lives, quietly, with almost no public credit. This became a pattern in his life. massive global impact, almost invisible personal fame. Now here's where the story gets genuinely unfair. In 2009, over 50 years after Kapany's breakthrough, the Nobel Prize in Physics was awarded for work on fiber optics. But it didn't go to Kapany. It went to a scientist named Charles Kao, who had separately figured out how to make fiber optics work over very long distances, the kind needed for global internet cables. So Kao solved long distance, but Kapany had solved the entire foundational problem first, proving light could even travel through bent fiber at all, years before Kao started. When journalists asked Kapany how he felt about being skipped, his response said everything about who he was. That's what the world says. But the Nobel Committee has its own decision. I don't think there should be any controversy about it. No bitterness, no demand for credit, just quiet acceptance. That's a strange kind of greatness, the kind that doesn't need applause to know it mattered. And his story doesn't end at the lab. Kapany also built and ran companies in Silicon Valley, taught at top universities, held over 120 patents, and spent decades preserving Sikh art and history through the foundation he built with his wife, funding exhibitions at places like the Smithsonian and London's V&A Museum. He passed away in 2020 at 94. A year later, India finally gave him the recognition the Nobel Committee didn't, the Padma Vibhushan, one of the country's highest civilian honors. So what can we actually take from Kapany's story? 1. Question the things everyone accepts as just how it is. His teacher said light can't bend. Kapany didn't argue out of arrogance. He argued because he was genuinely curious enough to test it. 2. Recognition and impact are not the same thing. Kapany changed the world more than most Nobel laureates ever will. The applause doesn't always arrive on time. Sometimes it arrives decades late, sometimes never. That doesn't make the work matter less. 3. Real innovation rarely happens in a straight line. Beer bottle glass, bureaucratic delays, a missed government job. None of it stopped him. It just redirected him towards something even bigger. The internet you're using right now exists because one curious kid in Punjab refused to believe light could only go straight. Hit subscribe, and let's keep learning from the heroes history forgot together here on MindScroll.